Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Story to Screen podcast, movie podcast where we review all different kinds of movies, new and old. I'm your host, Chris, and joining me tonight is Benjamin Curlee.
Hey, what's up?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Keeping busy, but pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you put the other day on Facebook, you posted a massive update on your colorful house. You had a red room and you had a green room. Am I right in that? Yeah.
Finished the ceiling in the family room, finally. Still need to paint the walls. That red is an unfortunate color. Came with the house, nothing I can do about it.
You can paint over it.
Not yet. Yeah. So.
Or you could do some Art Deco. You can throw some paint on the wall and make some.
There
really
we go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You could do that instead.
Totally.
It's interesting.
I'll just get like at Subway where they used to have that wallpaper that was like this map or whatever. I just do that across the whole wall.
Do they still do that at Subway?
I've seen it in a few. I used to really like that. It was always pretty cool.
They don't do that anymore?
I've only seen it in a few of the older ones, not even the new ones.
Oh man, I have not been in a Subway in a while.
Shame.
But the ones that I've been to, I haven't really noticed the the wallpaper, the Subway wallpaper, but that much. But I always thought that it was always there. I didn't really think about it that much. But wow, I didn't know they were becoming rare and rare. Anyway, first time we mentioned Subway on the show. How awesome is that?
Oh, Subway!
Yes, eat fresh.
Don't consider that an endorsement.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, welcome to the first part of our J.J. Abrams retrospective series. We are looking back on the film career of J.J. Abrams, who has done movies such as Mission Impossible 3, Star Trek, Super 8, and Star Trek Into Darkness, leading up to the Star Wars The Force Awakens. So, really small body of work, and that's why I kind of chose this specific film director to look at and study and to discuss. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. Let's jump into our review for Mission Impossible 3.
We've put an explosive charge in your head. I'm gonna count to 10. You're gonna tell me where the rabbit's foot is, or you die.
Thanks for coming. It's Agent Ferris. She's disappeared. I'm sending in search and rescue. This is the man she was tracking. His name is Owen Davian. Extremely dangerous.
I have to go away again. No business.
Ethan, what's going on? What are you not telling me?
Now, if it isn't Mr. Those Who Can't Do, Teach back in the field, welcome back, brother.
10 body go live. On my mark. Our mission is to kidnap him, execute him. And you're gonna tell
You have a wife, girlfriend, whoever she is. I'm gonna find her and I'm gonna hurt her. I'm gonna make her bleed and cry and call out your name. Because you're gonna be this close to death. And then I'm gonna kill you right in front of her.
You don't think I'll do it?
Fine.
You don't have any idea what the hell's going on, do you?
Now, before we begin our actual review, let's talk a little bit about J.J. Abrams. Now, obviously, for all of our listeners who are big, film and TV fans, a lot of them will know him as the creator of such iconic shows as such as Lost, Alias, Nikita. I think he was involved with that show. What else did he do? Felicity, which was a big show back in the late 90s. I didn't watch that show, but I do know that was one of his projects. He's also been a writer. He's written, oddly enough, he wrote Armageddon. I don't know if any of you've seen that movie, but I don't know who contributed to what into the final project. He's also written a lot of interesting kind of sci-fi element shows. That was kind of part of his early career.
Don't forget Fringe.
Yeah, that's true, Fringe. So he's done a lot of like sci-fi mystery shows, but and he's action stuff as well. So Ben, what is your opinion on J.J. Abrams, both as a filmmaker, but also just as a creator of films and TV?
I like him. I don't like what he did with Star Trek, but that's honestly the only thing I don't like about him. The rest of his work is quite original. It's very well thought out. And it feels like he's really striving toward, a goal of classic films. Almost Spielberg, in a way.
Yeah. He even looks like Spielberg. Have you looked at a picture of him?
He does. He
has this interesting, like, facial... I mean, he doesn't have the hair thing. He just has this really... He's 50 years old, and yet he looks like he's 30 years old. I looked that up the other day. But
something about working in Hollywood makes people look younger.
Yeah, and
extremely old.
But so are you like a fan of Lost and Alias?
I've not seen any of those, actually. I've got Alias queued up, and Lost, I don't know. I've seen clips. I don't think it would capture my attention as much. But beyond that, I really, really liked Super 8.
Okay. That's one of his films, and that's kind of... I'm kind of like trying to ignore the film stuff first and just kind of focus on the TV. But yeah, no. Yeah, I've seen... the first season of Lost. I didn't see the whole show, and maybe eventually I'll watch it. I know how it ends. I know all that stuff. I know the whole controversy around the finale, but I do have to give him so much praise for that Lost pilot. Like, and you said you haven't seen Lost, right?
No.
Okay. If you see the Lost pilot, and if that's all you ever see of Lost,
okay,
that's it. Like,
okay.
I remember watching that pilot and being just completely mystified of just everything, just the content, the characters, the story. He directed the 2-part pilot, and it was amazing. It is an amazing pilot, one of the best pilots I have ever seen for a TV show in my life. I kid you not. Excellent. And for Abrams, I really identify him more as a creator in the television field than I do with films, oddly enough. Obviously he made his name doing television. I mean, that's where everything came from with Lost and Alias. However, him as a director, and we could talk about his style as a director, I can't really specifically pinpoint as to what is his definitive...
Yeah, what makes him... Yeah.
What makes him a good director, You think of Spielberg, the wonder, the imagination, this sense of just utter joy in this world. Or when you look at like Martin Scorsese, the gangsters, the mob, violence, Francis Ford Coppola, you know, some of those similar traits. John Ford, the westerns, this a look back at a gung ho look back at the American West. Abrams, and it's, I think the one thing I can just kind of describe, he's a protege of Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
And we can talk about this when we get to Super 8 and some of the other films, but I can't really, like, he follows the mold of Spielberg in some of his films.
Yeah,
and definitely some other directors, but I can't specifically pinpoint what his style or what makes him a unique filmmaker, you know?
Yeah, and when that may be because he really hasn't done enough yet, honestly. And even, there's still really not even a clear theme in most of the stuff he does.
No.
I mean, okay, we've got a lot of action, okay, like you said, and then, you know, action sci-fi. A lot of that, but then you get some others in there that are just totally different. So, I don't know if he's even found a niche yet.
Yeah. It's like he's a protege. He's following in the shadow of other filmmakers, and he's obviously doing, like, the big franchise films, you know, with Mission Impossible, the new Star Trek films. So he's kind of following that mold, and obviously with Star Wars. And that's going to be kind of interesting to see if that's going to be if that's going to make him, you know, a unique, or what that's going to make or show the public, okay, that's what I call a definitive J.J. Abrams film.
Yeah.
Which I doubt, because I think that movie is going to feel a little too similar and a little too... it's going to kind of follow the same patterns of the original Star Wars, so I don't know if he's going to really show a unique...
Yeah, it's not really a good gauge, but...
Yeah. Super 8, I mean, I know I said we were going to leave some of this stuff for later on, but Super 8 to me is kind of a love letter to Spielberg in a way. So, and I can't really call that a definitive, like, okay, this is what Abrams is. And you know, like, and I kind of compare Super 8 to Interstellar. You know, that's Nolan's love letter to Stanley Kubrick, 2001: A Space Odyssey. But yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of jump back into the time machine. It's interesting how he landed this gig. Do you know the story about how he landed the gig of Mission Impossible 3? From what I know, Tom Cruise was trying to find another director for the film, and there were a couple of directors attached to this one. There was David Fincher, oddly enough, was going to direct.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and then Joe Carnahan, who I think was the director of The Grey with Liam Neeson, was going to direct at one point, which that would have been interesting. He should still direct a Mission Impossible movie, because The Grey was a fantastic movie. A couple other directors, but apparently he binge-watched, like, the first couple seasons of Alias.
Okay.
And he was absolutely impressed by Abrams, and that's how he got the gig, actually. And so he's basically a director for hire. That's how he gets this particular film. But anyway, let's go ahead and just start with our initial impressions of Mission Impossible. So, Ben, what do you think of Mission Impossible 3? Both as a film and even as a J.J. Abrams film.
Yeah. It was a good film. It was a refreshing take on kind of a failed sequel with Mission Impossible 2. That I fell flat for me. But Mission Impossible 3 really took it up a notch and brought it back to what Mission Impossible should be. With the intrigue and you know, good story in addition to really cool stunts and effects. I liked it. It had a lot of depth to it, actually.
Yeah. And what do you think makes this one? And this was, oddly enough, this is his feature length or a theatrical debut as a director. But oddly enough, this was actually a record for him, because This was the first time director with the biggest budget ever.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of history making here, but what, in your personal opinion, what do you think makes this a J.J. Abrams film to some degree? You know, if we're kind of trying to find those aspects that maybe from his previous work that maybe kind of that you can see through here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it here. I did, oddly enough, I mean, I don't know if this really ties in, but I do recall one scene that just felt like the new Star Trek films. I think it was the way it was framed and the way it was lit. Just really reminded me, it almost could have been cut right into one of the Star Trek films. Go figure. But I think it's the way he handles action. Trying to cut in personal motivation into the action.
Okay.
I think is the only common theme I see.
Okay. Okay, well, let me go ahead and start with my impressions. I think, honestly, this is probably Abrams' either his first or second best film. It's kind of a tie between this one and Star Trek. But, for a first-time director, I think he handles this movie in a very competent way. Like, he's very sure of what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. And I think it works perfectly on all different angles. And another good thing about this movie is that, obviously, he did Alias, so he was able to bring that kind of that family dynamic that was there in Alias, which was a spy show and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But bringing it, and I think you can definitely see it in here. What makes this movie oddly work is that it has a perfect combination of action / thrills and drama. Mm-hmm. And that's very, very, very rare for a movie of this scale or of this type to actually handle. Yeah. That's very, very rare. And the one film, and oddly enough, when this film came out, it was 2006, and the only film I can kind of compare it to is Casino Royale, which came out later that year. Mm-hmm. They're oddly enough very similar in some ways. The outcomes are the outcome in
but the feel of the film is quite similar. Yeah.
And the plot in some ways, if you kind of they kind of delve. And here's the interesting thing too. This is obviously the third film in the franchise, and it actually was a 6-year gap between 2 and 3. Because Cruise got busy with so many other projects. Mm-hmm. But what it does so well is that this movie kind of explores the human side of the Ethan Hunt character that you don't really see in the first two films. And in the first two films, he doesn't really have an arc in either one of those two films.
It's more of your classic 80s, early 90s action flick.
Yeah, you're taking it's almost as if you're taking the ride along with him with no bearance on his character. There's nothing, he's not really going through anything. We're just seeing things from his perspective. Mm-hmm. I mean, two did attempt at some drama, but it fell so flat because the sheer ridiculousness of that movie just kind of weighted.
Yeah. Jumping the shark much?
And that whole love story just didn't work. And here, it works. And I think that's one thing about Abrams that he really works very well in is, I think, character drama and character relationships. And that's obviously something that you would see in his later films as well as his TV work. I get the sense that he's a very character. He's character first, and then action and spectacle later. And I think that's a very noble mindset to have, because what he's trying to accomplish here is a connection with the audiences and the main protagonist, in that case, Ethan Hunt, and relating to him. And that's very rare in that case. So I guess we'll go ahead and talk about Ethan Hunt. I mean, what did you think of the character of Ethan Hunt? And you can go ahead and go into spoilers. And
Okay.
So, what did you think of Tom Cruise specifically in this movie and the character?
Great performance as usual. Again, Tom Cruise, he's not a very dynamic actor. He plays the same role in pretty much every film. But it's a good role. It's a good role for him, and he plays it well. And it was nice to see, again, a more human side to him. He's not this Rambo type of figure where, no, he's got, he loves someone, he would do anything, even die himself in order to make sure they're safe. And it was a really good performance.
But he's also, but again, I think it's a very relatable thing as well, because how many times have we kind of may have found ourselves in those type of situations where we're going to defend somebody that we truly love and even go to impossible odds to protect somebody. No, I really admired Cruise in this movie, and it's a very humbled, and I've heard a lot of people say this. It's a very humbled performance in a lot of ways, and I don't know if the filmmakers were trying to mirror his marriage at the time with Katie Holmes. I don't know if they were trying to go for that. But I'm gonna try to leave all that stuff in the garbage compactor because I don't want to talk about the stuff. But yeah, it's I actually think it's probably in my top 5, maybe top 10 favorite Tom Cruise performances from him. It's just so great, and I mean, even the action. Let's just talk about some of his action stuff. I mean, we've talked about Tom and just the guts that he has just to do the stuff that he does. I mean, you saw Rogue Nation, right, man? I mean, you saw just how. I mean, like, you remember the scene where he's in Shanghai? He's like running that really long take where he's running against the close to that river, and he's like running fast, chopping his arms in the air, and his back is like slightly lurched back, and it's one of those just rare qualities in an actor, that determination. I know we talked about this before, but it's so amazing to see how well he manages to combine both drama and action persona just very well. Gosh, now let's talk a little bit about the structure. I know I mentioned this earlier, about the drama and action. It's it's interesting though when they manage to put a lot of heart into that, and just in that aspect, combining the drama and the action, and but interweaving the two of them together. I mean, how besides, I know we mentioned Casino Royale, but can you think of another movie that does that combines the action, spectacle, and the drama? Can you think of another example of another film that does that very well?
The Incredibles.
That's true.
But it's not too many.
Not too many. And it's even shocking to me that when people think of the franchise, how this one is kind of forgotten.
I know. It is actually. And it may be, I mean, I don't know why. It's got a really good villain.
Let's leave that to this. Let's leave that for a little later.
It's just, I don't know why it's forgotten. I always forget it too. I can always remember 1 and 2. But for some reason, this one always slips my memory. Yeah,
it's funny, when this one came out, it made nearly, not exactly, but nearly $400 million. But guess what? Out of the whole entire franchise, it is the lowest grossing of the whole franchise.
Well, and that might have something to do with 2 being so bad.
Well, and you also have to remember there was all that stuff, the Scientology video, and it was funny because the year before he did War of the Worlds, and that made $600 million.
Yeah.
This comes out, and it only made nearly $400 million. You would think that the previous movie too, I think, made like $600 million as well. So you would expect this one to do just as well. But it didn't. Apparently, it actually lost a lot of money in the domestic.
Really?
Domestically,
Okay.
yeah, and apparently it made its money overseas. But I kind of recall that when people, because 2006. Let's remember that year. That was when Pirates 2 came out.
Mm-hmm.
Miami Vice, Casino Royale, Superman Returns.
Oh, that was terrible.
X-Men 3.
It was a year of bad films, wasn't it?
Oddly enough, it was. And oddly enough, it was one of the top 10 highest grossing films of the year. But I remember reading like a newspaper article about movies that were kind of disappointments in terms of box office numbers. I remember this one coming up quite a bit on a lot of lists.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of shocked that I'm still kind of shocked that it didn't do very well. And when fans talk about it, they don't or when fans talk about the franchise, they seem to just talk about Ghost Protocol or the first one or number 2. And now I'm sure Rogue Nation's going to be mixed into that. But yeah, the third one just kind of gets lost in the mix. And it's a shame because we were talking, I think we talked about this the last time with Ghost Protocol, but Ghost Protocol to me is how a Mission Impossible needs to be in terms of the characters and that movie did a really good job with the characters, but this one to me is what a Mission Impossible needs to be, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because it. Let's talk a little bit about let's go ahead and just talk about the plot, because I mean the plot has a lot of great twists. I mean the first one had some interesting stuff with the Jim Phelps, but that movie to me kind of gets a little convoluted, and you're not too sure how he's able to, at least the Ethan Hunt character is able to make connections with certain things like the Bible. I don't even remember the connection with Phelps in the Bible, but apparently there was a lot of stuff cut from that movie that helped it make it more sense. 2, I don't even remember the mystery in 2, and I don't even remember the villain, but here you have a lot of interesting themes and ideas, because you actually kind of find out that maybe the enemy is working from inside, and do you remember if this was actually mirroring the times, like a lot of uncertainty with the FBI or with the government? Do you remember what was like the?
I don't recall too much.
I know we were still in the Bush administration, and I know a lot of people were kind of unhappy with certain things and with uncertainty, but
I don't know. I mean, I really don't recall that too well.
Yeah,
wasn't following it very closely.
Sure, but you have this kind of inside. It's kind of like the movie I was thinking about was The Manchurian Candidate without the the delusionments. In Manchurian Candidate you had these people who were working with terrorists. And you had terrorists, but in this one you do have terrorism, which it's interesting. They do a really good job of handling the terrorism in a post 9/11 era. But this one doesn't. It doesn't really, except with like domestic terrorism aspect, which is kind of there. The movie doesn't really play on the political themes. It's not necessarily a political thriller. I mean, do you think it's a political?
No, not at all.
No.
No. I mean, we don't even. Yes, we know that IMF is government funded, but we don't even really see that tie in very much. So no, it doesn't even feel like it's a government conspiracy or anything. It just doesn't feel that way to me.
Yeah, I mean, like what's the Burley Crudup character, John Musgrave. you find out that he's actually a traitor. I get the sense that he's maybe like I don't remember what was his position again. Operations.
I don't know.
Operations
He was
director.
son of some well-known politician.
Yeah, he was an
or something. That's how I
operations
got
director in the IMF, and
yes.
I mean, they do some really interesting things with him, and then making you think that it's Lawrence Fishburne who's behind some of the stuff. But there's that one scene where what is it? He's talking to where they have Hunt in kind of the movie I was thinking about was Hannibal Lecter. He's in that Hannibal Lecter, the mask and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And and he's saying to him, I would, what was the stains of the flag, I would. Oh gosh, what was that line again about the flag?
Oh yeah. I'd bleed on the flag to keep it red or something like that, right?
That is a very strong, patriotic quote right there. And I remember watching the movie for the first time and really being, just really being in total awe of that line. I mean, that's a very powerful line. But then when he begins to, lip, kind of do some, what's the word I'm looking for? Just some.
Oh yeah,
lip
reading.
Lip reading. Yeah, lip reading.
But
I knew right there.
He speaks to him without actually using his voice. Yeah,
I knew right there and then that he was he was a bad guy. I knew exactly he was the bad, or somehow associated with.
I'd forgotten that. Actually, took me by surprise when he came out as the bad guy. I'd forgotten.
Let's talk about.
No, not the bad guy. A bad guy.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's Owen Davian. It's an incredible performance.
Yeah, that was really good.
It's very rare when you have a blockbuster that has a compelling and unique villain. I can't think, in terms of like this past decade, you had the Joker, but I can't really think of specific blockbuster. Maybe Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter, but I can't think of a.
It's only a few though.
Of a specific blockbuster villain that really stands out and gives the movie a lot of he gives the movie a sense of just danger and a dangerous presence. That is very rare, and he's very unique. That's the word I'm looking for. He's a very unique villain in a summer blockbuster. Usually the summer blockbusters, villains are like, oh, I want to destroy the world, or yada yada yada. Here it's personal.
Yeah, and what's funny is we're not told anything. We're not told any reason why. It's just that it is. This is very personal for him for some reason.
I mean, it's how one person put it. It's like he just Tom Cruise pissed him off or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. He really, really holds grudges. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I kind of think of him as the character from Goodfellas, Joe Pesci's Goodfellas, where he doesn't let anything go. He's like he's gonna fight you and just try to almost kill you because you got in his way, but who's just easily provoked. But it's interesting when the circumstances leading up to how he got this role, Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was on this critical streak. And the previous year he just won the Oscar for Capote. And have you seen that film, by the way?
I've not.
Yeah, he won the Oscar for that movie. So it is interesting, how those you go through a streak of critical acclaim, and then you land a gig like this. And I mean, I think it was a perfect time to get him. And oddly enough, him and Cruise had actually worked together before in that movie Magnolia. And it's funny. I watched that film and how completely opposites they are. In that film Magnolia, he's playing just a house nurse for Tom Cruise's dad, and Tom Cruise in the movie is just a complete utter crazy guy, just a blockhead. And it's funny how the circle has reversed. Tom Cruise is playing the ordinary guy, and Tom Cruise and Philip Seymour Hoffman is the he was the really angry, arrogant guy. But
yeah.
Another thing about the performance that really just is awe-inspiring is that he does so much without saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rare for an actor to. It's the character of Owen Davian. I mean, is just so blank. There's like he's utterly blank, and the way that he says lines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially in that opening scene. You know, in the opening moments which is you're gonna lead throughout the movie. You're anticipating for how he does that, but he's holding his wife hostage, and Tom Cruise is just absolutely helpless. He can't do anything, and he says those lines. Did you get Ethan? Where's the rabbit's foot? And he's just playing with him and all that stuff. But
yeah,
and also there's the plane scene. Where he says, do you have a girlfriend, wife? All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find her. I'm gonna hurt her. But there's a certain blankness to him, but he conveys so much menace to that blankness. It's almost like he has no soul.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where you really feel scared for Cruise and everyone.
Yeah.
With him as the enemy, you really do.
But it's even scarier because it's like there's nothing. There's nothing there. You don't know what he's thinking.
I know. If he lashed out in rage, it's like, okay, we see the amount of depth that he has. But the fact that he maintains this cool composure the whole time. Yeah.
That's very, and that's just due to the talent of Hoffman.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't think of another film villain who conveys that with just doing very, very little. Who's not really expressing a whole lot. But the watch that scene again. I actually recommend one thing. And here's one thing about the complexity of his character that I found interesting. If you watch the beginning part again, there's the moment when Tom Cruise asks him, please don't kill my wife. Just let her go. I'll help you get what you want, but you have to choose what's right. You look at his face, and there's he does this thing with his eyes that's almost remorseful, as if Tom Cruise actually touched a part of his soul. I don't know if you noticed that part. Did you notice that?
No, it didn't stand out to me, but that whole scene was intense. And it was superb acting.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and talk about that. I mean, did you think she was dead at that point?
No, and that's because I knew the other films. I knew she wasn't. So I suspect, especially based upon 2, how they played so much with masks, I was pretty certain that it was not her, especially with the tape across the mouth. Once the gunshot happened, I knew it wasn't her. But up until that point, I was scared.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's funny, the movie starts out with that kind of, hostage situation and interrogation. That's kind of interesting and also kind of a bold choice, but it's something that we've seen a lot in television, and obviously that's kind of where Abrams is using his roots.
No, it's not a typical choice for feature films, and actually it worked really well here.
Yeah,
because you're constantly thinking about that the whole time. Even when he's captured the bad guy, it's like, yeah, but something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen.
Yeah,
we're gonna get to that scene eventually.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh boy, where we're gonna go from here.
Yeah.
And it's also another intensity to the movie is the whole what is it? That whole like a explosion device that they stick up his nose.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was some dark stuff. Yeah, I just want to say one thing about the plot. Let me just read a quick synopsis about the plot, so just give people an idea. Ethan Hunt comes into conflict with a dangerous and sadistic armed dealer who threatens his life and his fiancée in response. Many things occur. I can't read the rest right there. Just disappears. But anyway, so obviously, we've been talking about that this is a much more personal film, but in the movie, the launching pad for his motivations is his pupil, who's actually a female, a girl who he trains in the IMF, who's captured by Davian and who's actually betrayed by, or who's, what's the word I'm looking for? Who's been informed by the Billy Crudup character, and then they find out that she's actually working with the IMF, who Billy Crudup betrays her. But by the way, fantastic action sequence, and I think that's another thing with Abrams. His strength is that he can do fantastic action scenes. I mean, like that. I think of that.
They're thought out. The stunts are reasonable. It's all realistic. It's nothing stretched.
Yeah.
At least not to extreme lengths. Yeah.
And they're edited well. That's another good thing too. Is that with action movies, it's really hard because you might just go a little crazy with the editing. But there's a certain a choreography in the editing that just goes from one person to another. But it's in a geography to it that's very, very fluid, and that's very rare with action film directors. And there's some good ones out there that can edit great action scenes. But another thing too is that another thing about Abrams is that he's very practical. He's a true component of the practical effects, and you can see that a lot. Like I actually read somewhere that a lot of that stuff with the helicopters and the windmills, a lot of that apparently I heard was actually real. So and we're going to see that with Star Wars. I mean, he's going to be.
And I look forward to that.
Yeah, and with Star Trek, he's a huge practical effects guy in the Star Trek films. But I'm just trying to think of what else. So yeah, the girl is captured, and going back to what motivates Tom is that the girl is killed with this with a kind of like a cyanide type of pill or just an explosion pill. That was freaky, dude. Like when she does that little lurch with the head.
Yeah, when the bomb goes off in her brain.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude, that was disturbing. Like that was the first time in a Mission Impossible movie that this felt grounded. Like this, there was a certain reality to it that was just also threatening. But and her eye. I didn't get a good close-up of the eye, but I thought that the eye actually cracked in some areas. Did you notice that?
I didn't notice, but
you look. I'm pretty sure that there's like a crack in the eye, like it's
some shrapnel or something that got embedded in it, or whatever.
Yeah, like it's trying to get out, and the eyes just go into opposite. That was the most disturbing part of the whole movie to me. Like I know the interrogation scene is quite intense, but that whole scene was incredibly disturbing to watch. Gosh, I'm just trying to think of something else where we can that we can talk about. What's something that really stands out to you in this movie?
Just a lot of the drama, the personal play back and forth between Ethan and Luther is hilarious. It's great. You can tell that Luther definitely cares for him. Even though he's got this hard persona, he's really really a teddy bear at heart. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah, let's go. I don't think we've talked that much about the love story. You have Michelle Monaghan, who I'm not really a big Michelle Monaghan fan, to be very honest. I think she's good in what she does. I've just never been like, this girl's going to be a massive movie star one of these days. And
okay.
I don't know. She's just like C-list, B-list level.
Great for TV shows or whatever, but
but I think the love story, again, we were talking about relatability, and it's interesting how like one of the opening scenes of this movie is, you see Hunt in his normal life and this normal interaction between him and his girl, him and his future wife, and you buy the romance, and that was something that I didn't really buy in the first two. I don't even know if the whole Jim
I know it felt more like a fleeing or one night sort of thing. But
the second one was like The second one was just this whole like one night stand.
It's more just infatuation than anything else.
Yeah, here, it's established that they've been, I was gonna say at it. They've been in a relationship for a while, and I think that's a strength in films. When you go off of it's a pre-existing relationship. You don't have to bother with introducing them. You just explain it through dialogue, basically, that the two know each other from past encounters. And I mean, you're married. I mean, Ben, you're married and all that stuff. And what is something about the thing that you kind of that inspires you, or that really makes you kind of appreciate the marriage aspect in this movie, or just
I think they did a really good job portraying that. See, there's the one scene when he goes to see her at the hospital just before leaving.
Yes, I was about to mention that.
Okay, and they're standing on the roof there, and they're just having this really intimate conversation. And she's scared. She loves him, but she's scared for them. She has no idea what in the world he's talking about, what it is he's keeping from her, but she loves him and she wants to stay with him. She's thinking, is it an affair? Is it is it me? Is it just all these things you can see going through her head? And he's like, no, I can't tell you. You're gonna have to trust me, but I love you, and let me prove it. And it was really good. It was a certain aspects of it I wouldn't necessarily condone.
Yeah. Yeah, they went into that one room and I feel sorry. I feel sorry. I hate that in television where it's like, man, I'm gonna feel sorry for you if someone comes in at that particular moment. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but I was just talking about them living together before getting married. I
didn't like that.
I think that weakens a marriage relationship and it doesn't strengthen it.
Yeah.
But no, once they were married, you could totally see they're sold out. Selfless love for each other.
Oh, completely.
It was great. It was great. No, I loved it. I completely bought it, and that is what gives so much depth to the film.
Yeah, and I think, and another thing too, it does ask an interesting ethical question. This movie is essentially about secrets and lying and lies and betrayal and who's identities. I think that's the key right here is identities. And Cruz is trying to hide this whole aspect about his life in secret. He's apparently working for the transportation company, and when I think of that moment,
that's his cover story.
Yeah. But it's even funny too. He's not using a cover name or anything like that. He's just going by the name Ethan Hunt. But the thing, another strength about this movie is it's kind of asking these questions of, if you were in these positions, about if you're in this type of position, would you keep it all a secret, or would you tell your loved one? Would you tell your loved ones, what you're really up to? And he another thing too is that even though he's trying to keep all this stuff under wraps, which is basically his duty. I mean, I'm sure he can't really talk about any of this stuff. He's following. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like I can tell he wants to tell her, but he can't.
Do you think it's just a matter of
safety?
Do you think it's a matter of principle because of the organization?
I don't know. I mean, I see that he's torn. Yeah. On one hand, he wants to tell her, just so that to put her mind at ease, and so that he can feel like he's not keeping secrets. But then on the other hand, he seems to really adore her innocence to it all.
Yeah.
And telling her would break that. And, maybe he fears lose the charm. Telling her in the end, and her finding out actually strengthens them. Yeah. But, common mistake.
Yeah, it's not a secret like, I'm having an affair with this woman. It's nothing like that at all. It's just because he is torn between, his duty. And honestly, I think at the beginning of this movie, he is actually considering on retiring from the IMF.
Yes.
So that that is definitely in the decks for him. He's kind of thrown into this whole situation because his protege, so to speak, has been
it's a personal thing, so he feels obligated to. Yeah.
Did you get the sense that maybe him and his protege, Kerry Russell's character, were maybe had a past together, or do you think it was just as Tom Cruise says in the movie, kind of a brother and sister type of relationship, mentor student?
No, I think it was completely platonic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's talk about a couple more things. The MacGuffin of this. Here's something that's really interesting: the whole rabbit's foot aspect. Now, when we went to Rogue Nation, I thought we were going to get the answer to the rabbit's foot. I thought for some reason the rabbit's foot was actually the Rebecca Ferguson character, but I think that was just an inside joke. But you don't know exactly what the rabbit's foot is. I mean, you're left to assume that it's possibly a chemical,
some sort of biochemical weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, that supposedly is called like the anti-god or something like that, or
I don't know. That's just. I mean, we don't know for sure. They're just all theories that are thrown around.
Yeah.
We don't know. We know it was,
and that's part of the whole J.J. Abrams mystery box thing. Here's the mystery box. Mm-hmm. No one can't really know what it is. And that's one of the biggest problems with Lost, was that Lost kind of got very convoluted in its storytelling. And we never find out what it is. I mean, are you okay with that idea that we never find out about what the rabbit's foot is?
Yeah, because it wasn't that item itself that was the danger. It was just, it's like a gun. Yes, a gun can be dangerous, but it's more dangerous in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
So we weren't really worried about it. We just, want to make sure it didn't fall in the wrong hands. Otherwise, we were totally cool with whatever in the world it was.
Yeah, it's the thing that really sends, things, escalate things, but the real conflict is not, who gets their hands on the rabbit's foot. It's more so the marriage. Is Tom Cruise and his wife going to survive this whole thing? It's more of a who's going to survive this this plot? Who's going to come out of this alive? I'm just trying to think. I didn't necessarily mind it either, because I was really caught up with the story and the drama, because it was just so compelling. And and maybe they could maybe we did get the answer, they just didn't do it very well. But maybe we'll see what the rabbit's foot is. But I think the rabbit's foot, to me, I wouldn't actually be shocked if the whole rabbit's foot thing was just a farce, just to get, and it was part of Damien's plan, just to get Cruise out into the open, you know what I mean, or just to do his bidding, because I think he was just maybe he was testing him.
Oh, yeah, just to pull his chain.
Yeah, that could be possible. Well, I mean, the movie does. Well, I take that back.
I mean, it was something, but did he really need Cruise to get it, or did he have his own way to get it?
Maybe. Well, and then there's at the very end, which we'll talk about that later. Tom does ask Lawrence Fishburne, "What is the rabbit's foot?" And he says, "You stay. We'll tell you about it." Which we'll talk about the ending in just a little bit. But let's talk about the Shanghai stunt, jumping from the building. This is funny. This movie came out in 2006. The Dark Knight came out in 2008. Nolan ripped off Abrams. So.
Oh yeah.
That is just an exciting scene there. I remember that scene being heavy in the promotions. Him jumping off the building.
Oh yeah. Well, and that was honestly their, and that actually, I was thinking about it. That may be why this film is forgettable.
Really?
Because it doesn't have too much that's impossible about it.
Really?
Doesn't have extremely elaborate scenarios that he's got to get himself through.
There's a certain simplicity to the action at times. I mean, it's incredible, it's awe-inspiring, but the narrative, and I think that's what Abrams, and that's why I think he's a very competent filmmaker in this one, and he delivers, is the simplicity. Because the movie is not really that complex of a narrative. Or that deep. I mean, there's some deep ideas, going on with some stuff, but it doesn't really stand out to me as a, kind of a.
No, I mean, think about the other films. Okay, so we've got the climbing the the skyscraper in MI4. And then we've got
the motorcycle chase, slow-mos, and that's impossible.
Yeah,
How can you slow-mo yourself in Mission Impossible 2?
And then you've got the helicopter in the train tunnel in the first one.
Yeah. That was a little cartoony to me, but, we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, but you've got these extreme stunts going on that bring it to mind. And this film, beyond this giant, tire swing over to another building, that's about the only big stunt that there is in the whole film.
But, I mean, you do have the bridge sequence, which is really great. And that one kind of plays out like a video game at times because, some cars block... Like, there's a hole there's a huge gap in the road. A fiery car, lands on one side and he can't get through. And I was immediately thinking of a video game.
It does play out like that. Yeah.
Really good stuff. But, the Shanghai stuff is... I mean, I'm when I think of this film, I think of that film specifically. Or that scene specifically. And Abrams just... And I think that's probably because... he worked on Alias, and Lost wasn't really action-oriented. It was more so just mystery and intrigue, like an Alfred Hitchcock type of thriller. But Alias, I'm sure had a lot of action scenes. But here, he's very... he knows what he wants, and he's giving it style. He's giving it excitement. And, that's really, really good on his part. But... It is funny, though, when we get to the end of the film and him and Philip Seymour Hoffman have that final confrontation. He's about to...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. The danger now is whether or not he's going to survive. And we'll talk about that. He's got the bomb going down in his head. And then, he's gonna fulfill his promise. Philip Seymour Hoffman is gonna kill his wife, and then it goes into this really, kind of really funny, fist fight where he's using his elbows, like he's placing his hands against his head, and
because his head's in severe pain. He's got the worst migraine ever. And so he's got to keep pressure on, but so he's doing some Krav Maga with his elbows. It was
It's funny. Yeah. I think even on his worst day, Tom Cruise could still beat Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Did it with style too.
Yeah, I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman he's more like this brawler. That's what I get the sense. He's like this kind of a what is it, a bar bouncer or something like that. Like that's his style. He's not physically that threatening in terms of he's threatening in his mindset, but he's not threatening.
Exactly. Yeah, he makes a good criminal mind, but not so much a bodyguard.
Yeah, and even in his best day, Tom Cruise could still wallop Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he does. A lot of people seem to have a problem with the death, like he gets run over by a car. Did you have a problem with
that?
It
Was hilarious. I loved
that.
It
Was great. And then the shoe, plopping down the.
The only beef I had with that was that more than likely the driver would have swerved, and so it wouldn't have gone clean over him. But oh well.
Yeah, there would be a little bit of blood there.
Most of everything in that movie. They planned it as meticulously as they could, but in the end, it was luck that made it possible.
And and then there's the whole ending, and then he gets himself electrocuted. I kind of found that whole scene a little bit odd. I don't even know if that's even possible. You can electrocute yourself and then do that stuff that she did. I mean, I don't know if that's...
and bring yourself...
CPR.
Yeah, that was kind of stretching it a little bit.
That's the one part of the movie I kind of think that's... Okay, this is kind of a little bit out of reality. Because for the most part, this movie still feels like a pretty realistic... You could believe that this movie stuff like this could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So... And then, let's talk about the ending.
And the other thing is, the way he electrocuted himself, the way electricity works, it goes from point A to point B. So just because he held it in his hand when he got electrocuted doesn't mean it's going to travel to his brain. It's actually just going to travel from one hand to the other. So he would have needed to have held the wires across his head in order to actually zap the device. So, yeah, no, not grounded in reality. That's pretty much the only place it really stretches it.
Sure. But then, so we get to the ending, and I'm gonna be kind of honest. I think the ending is kind of a little bit abrupt, because it's like, okay, when is he gonna get his next mission? I get the sense back in the day, I got the sense that this may have intended to be the final film. Just the way that it ends, I get the sense it's like, okay, he's going off happily ever after, and
yeah, I always thought it was the final film.
Yeah, me too. And that's what the trilogies would be. That was going to be it. This was going to close the story.
I mean, the only thing they left a little bit open.
Yeah,
it's like
the rabbit foot.
What was it? The Pentagon has a something they want to talk to you about, or yada yada, something like that.
Yeah,
they left potentially open, but
I think
they wrapped up everything nicely.
I think they were trying to maybe say, okay, that was going to be office work, as opposed to him being on the field. So I think that was going to be like the closing book in terms of his character. He gets to have the normal life with his wife and all that stuff, and then it just ends. You don't get like the I think with the previous two films, it does end with this mission.
It does. It's like well, yeah. It's like, okay, we defeated this bad guy, but there's still more to do.
Yeah, there's still more to do, and I think had between 3 and 4, had he had a lot more success, because he kind of went into this little droughty period. I mean, he did Lions for the Lambs, which was a boring movie. Valkyrie, which was good, but I don't think it was very well received by people. Tropic Thunder, he's absolutely hilarious in that movie, but that didn't really cement him as a bona fide movie star again. It just really showed that he was really incredibly talented. But the Night and Day, oh my god, you remember that movie with Cameron Diaz and all that? Oh my god,
I thought it was kind of funny.
I hated I hate Cameron Diaz, and I absolutely despise the guts out of that movie.
I thought it was funny.
I
enjoyed it for the laughs.
It just didn't go anywhere. It was just this weird plot that just didn't go anywhere, and I don't know. It just felt like and the problem was that with that movie was that you had a great director in that movie, directing that movie, and James Mangold, it just didn't do anything for me. But yeah, it ends competent. But yeah, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think had the films between 3 and 4 had been a lot more successful, or he had found a lot more acclaim in those areas, I think he would have ended it right there. And I think the reason why he came back to 4 was to kind of go cement himself back in a more profitable film. And
something that he knew would take off, guaranteed. Because already had a dedicated fan base who were guaranteed to watch it again. And...
Yeah. So I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up right here. So Ben, what are your final thoughts on Mission Impossible 3, and do you recommend it?
Final thoughts. Good film. Yes, I recommend it. It was a pleasant ride in the Mission Impossible world. Almost, entering into the realm of a drama in some instances. Had depth that the previous two did not. No, it was really good. I liked it.
Okay. For me, I give this a strong recommend. I do advise some caution. There are some central situations with two people. There's some language and a lot of intense action moments. But as a film debut for J.J. Abrams, it's a solid, and I mean solid film debut. Abrams. Here's one thing we forgot to mention. There were some lens flares. That's another signature style. There were a couple. Yeah. It's not as many as in Star Trek, but here you do get some. By the way, the color palettes in this movie were really, really cool.
They were. The scene I was thinking about that reminded me of Star Trek. Near the beginning, when he's in the convenience store talking to the other agent, just something about the blues and the lighting from just and the way the camera was set up and angled between the two just really reminded me of Star Trek for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
Figure.
So that specific part reminds you of Star Trek? Okay.
Yeah, just the way it was set up. That looks really familiar.
I was watching it, kind of thinking to myself, okay, where is Star Trek? Where is Super 8? Where's all that other stuff? And I don't see it. Again, this is a hired director, a director for hire, I should say. Delivering a solid action film in a specific franchise, and it works. As a solid film debut, it works on all places. It's a great action movie. It's a great drama. Great character development. You know what? Here's one thing we forgot about characters. We forgot to mention Simon Pegg. Reggie had barely. He only had 2 scenes.
Yeah, but they were hilarious.
No, they were good, but he had nothing to do in this movie. He just gave he just provided some exposition on the anti-god. He helped Ethan find his wife at the very end, which was a great scene, by the way. He's there talking to him on the phone. Giving him direction.
I can get my citizenship revoked, and I can't be seen doing this. There I go. I just helped a convict of the law, and
that was great stuff. And it was great, kind of seeing his character developed in the next 2 films. It's interesting, Speaking of Mission Impossible, this is we've already covered the last 3 films in the franchise, so all that leaves is 2 and 1. So. Maybe we'll just do 2 next, so that we can get that movie out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
John Woo's. I got a lot of interesting things to say about John Woo's Mission Impossible 2. But maybe we'll get Doug Walker. Because I think Doug Walker's a bit of a fan of that movie. I think, but I'm not too sure. But anyway, folks, this is it. This is the first part of our J.J. Abrams retrospective film series reviews. So next up is Star Trek, the 2009 reboot, and I know that you are not a huge fan of that movie, but I am kind of curious to see what you think of it. But yeah, we'll try to get everybody involved in that one, because that seems to be not only just considered by many...
It's a polarizing film.
What?
It's a polarizing film.
Well, not a polarizing film, but it's kind of considered by many one of the better sci-fi films. And also from 2009, because you had Avatar and District 9 and Star Trek. But anyway, we'll be going to where no man has gone before. Also, our next theatrical movie review will be Matt Damon's and Ridley Scott's The Martian. So, are you looking forward to that, Ben?
Yeah, that looks like it's going to be really good.
So, so we'll be doing that very soon. So, audiences, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and on iTunes. Please leave us a review on iTunes and just give us some positive, constructive, negative. I mean, I'm open to improving ourselves. Please just spread the word of our podcast. Maybe we can compete with some of the big dogs out there. Ben, thank you very much for joining me for the first part. And
thank you. Yeah,
and I look forward to doing the other 4 leading up to The Force Awakens. So I'm really excited.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, audiences, good night, everybody. Cheers.
We've put an explosive charge in your head. Does that sound familiar? The rabbit's foot, where is it?
I gave it to you.
Ethan. Where's the rabbit's foot?
Wait, what are you saying? That wasn't it? What I gave you?
I'm gonna count to 10. You're gonna tell me where the rabbit's foot is, or she dies.
Jules, she's gonna be okay.
He's gonna be okay, do you understand?
One.
You listen to me. I got exactly what you asked for. Did you want something else? So if there was a misunderstanding, I will fix it. I can get it. Whatever you want.
2.
Listen. Talk to me. We can talk. Like gentlemen.
3.
God! All right. All right. I know where the rabbit's foot is. I can help you.
The way you helped me on the airplane? That way?
You put the gun down. I'm not talking to you like this.
That's your choice. 4.
The rabbit's foot's in Paris. You want to know where in Paris? Then let her go. Because you will
It's
never...
not in Paris. 5.
I can get it for you. But you kill her, you do this, you get nothing. Are you listening to me? The only way you're gonna get what you want is for you to... You think I'm playing? I'm playing? You don't think I'll do it? Where is it? Where the hell is it? Look at me. Where the hell is it? Look at me. Stay with me. 7! 7! Kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I swear to God, I'm gonna kill you. 8! Please, don't do this. Just let her go. I promise you. Promise you. I can figure out how to get whatever you
9!
want. Listen to me. I want to help you. I want to help you get whatever you want. But you got to do what's right. What you know is right. No. No. No.
10.